The first genuine open-world game with no boundaries. That is, a full-scale world with no loading screens. This is Light No Fire from Hello Games. It was perhaps one of the biggest surprises at last night's Game Awards, but there's also a few others there. We're going to talk about that in a minute. We got Exodus coming up, another really interesting space-themed game, and also want to touch on EVE Vanguard as well. So, Light No Fire, the game we're seeing at the trailer of right here, is set on a full-scale Earth. So how is this any different to what we've seen before in No Man's Sky? Well, for starters, the worlds in No Man's Sky are very small, they're nowhere near the scale of Earth. Secondly, and perhaps the most important detail about Light No Fire, is that the planet is going to have an abundance of variety. And we get some glimpses of that right here, a whole load of different biomes. Just check out those mountains in the background. I think we get to see it just as this dragon flies up. The mountains are absolutely massive, and I can't think of many other games, if any, which have mountains of that type of scale. In fact, there's only one other game I can think of that has even attempted a full-scale Earth, and that is Microsoft Flight Simulator. Light No Fire, however, is pushing things much further by allowing players to explore the surface, every single inch of this planet. So yeah, this is an extremely ambitious goal, and there's not really anyone else out there who has attempted anything quite like this. What type of game is it going to be? Well, it seems it's going to be a survival game, single-player focused for the most part. At least it's listed as a single-player game on Steam, but it does have a multiplayer co-op element to it. So my take on this is that the multiplayer side of things will work very similar to what we see in No Man's Sky. And that seems to include the ability to have persistent buildings scattered around the planet as well, in addition to many things to discover. Clearly then, Light No Fire shares a lot of similarities with No Man's Sky, except everything here is set on a single planet. The biggest departure perhaps is this is not a sci-fi focused game, this is very much a fantasy game. What's more, whilst the promo material seems to suggest this is set on a literal copy of our Earth, that's not the case. If you check out Steam, it says set on a fantasy world the same size as Earth. But what does that actually mean in terms of the world's size? What does it mean to us as gamers? Well, the map in Red Dead Redemption 2 is 29 square kilometers, whereas the surface of Earth has a size of 510 million square kilometers. That means the map here in Light No Fire is going to be 17.5 million times the size of the map in Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, I know a lot of people are not fans of procedural generation when it comes to large-scale games, but I think perhaps we could say Hello Games are one of the foremost experts of procedural generation when it comes to video games at this point. So I'm certainly very interested to see what they're going to achieve and what they're trying to aim to achieve when it comes to Light No Fire. There's no release date on this one just yet, so it could be a long time away, maybe at some point in 2024, but I suspect very likely it's going to be a fair bit further out. We'll have to see on that count. Hopefully though, we'll hear more information soon. Now looking elsewhere on the Game Awards, there was the announcement, the trailer of Exodus. So Exodus is a brand new sci-fi RPG, and it actually features Matthew McConaughey in his first video game role. And it's pretty interesting because there's some similar themes here to his movie Interstellar actually. At any rate, the game is developed by Archetype Entertainment. It's a studio with veteran developers from previous AAA studios. Now, as you can see from the trailer, there's a very heavy sci-fi theme here, including a lot of stuff centered around and on spaceships as well, by the looks of it. Now, the narrative of the game heavily revolves around the concept of time dilation, and this all seems to come about by the player travelling at the speed of light. As they're travelling around at the speed of light, a short amount of time passes for them, but decades passes elsewhere, and this means that the consequences of player choices can have a pretty dramatic effect, as they really do play out over a significant amount of time. In terms of gameplay, it seems to revolve around stealing alien weapons and technology from an alien race known as the Celestials, which are the most powerful beings in the universe, and humanity's greatest enemy. Beyond that, not too much is known, but it's clear this has a very heavy focus on narrative. The game has been developed for PlayStation 5, Xbox and PC. Unfortunately, there's no information whatsoever on release date or release window even. Although that said, the developers behind the game are really keen on this being an ongoing franchise, so it seems there will be sequels to it just so long as the initial game is successful enough. Now, the other thing I wanted to touch on today very briefly is the release of EVE Vanguard. Well, I say release, it's not fully released yet, it's still a fair ways off, but you can currently play the alpha version of the game. This is an event that's going on for the next few days. To get access is pretty simple. You just download the EVE Online launcher and then install the Vanguard from there. However, do keep in mind it does require an ongoing subscription to EVE Online to get access. Now this then is the latest game from CCP, and it's very much connected to the EVE Online universe. In fact, the actions you take inside the Vanguard will have a direct consequence to the events of EVE Online and vice versa as well. The game is a first-person shooter, and visually it's very rich and very interesting. Here's a bit of a playthrough that I had just before recording this video. So when you jump into the game, it's very much multiplayer focused. You'll be competing against other players. Throughout your session, you're about to collect new weapons as well as a whole range of different loot. There's a map you can bring up that will help you navigate around the arena, around the area. And if you hold down the caps lock key, it'll bring you up a list of missions that you can actually take and try and complete. In terms of combat, I haven't had too much of a chance to get involved in that very much yet. The map I was playing on didn't seem to have a whole lot of players on, and the 2 times I did encounter another player, I got killed pretty quickly. But I just wanted to jump in very quickly and make you aware that this is going on. I think it's available until the 11th of December, so the window to try this out is pretty short. But it's something I'm going to play out a little bit more over the weekend, and I'll let you know some further information at some time next week in another video. So there we have it, a whole bunch of information that today, some pretty neat things going on, and I'm particularly interested in seeing what happens with Hello Games, a new game. Really want to see where that one goes. Seems very, very ambitious. Do let me know what your thoughts on all of this are in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you. Meanwhile, check out these other videos.